Hi, I'm Dr. Dominic McLoughlin, your business specialist. In the first video, we looked at the difference between the best and worst managers and how important character is for building trust and outstanding performance. In this video, we're going to look at the bottom two boxes in this diagram, behavior and application, and how they affect trust in the workplace. In terms of behavior, so again, this is the more observable things, the kind of actions that people took. The worst managers were particularly noticeable for dishonesty, so they were prepared to use deceit for manipulation and to promise rewards that never came or promotions that were never available. They often lied about their performance to advance their own career, and that's part of claiming, the work of others as their own and taking the recognition. Also, if results were poor, they tended to blame team members. So it's kind of amazing that some people even stole equipment or money from their organization. So team members were aware that this stuff was going missing and that their manager was likely responsible for it. They often had a hidden agenda for the things they did, such as become more popular or more sort of, that sort of career motivation was another one. And other forms such as overworking the team and underpaying them. So interesting elements around honesty. I mean, again, most of the research would say that honesty and trust are highly correlated, so that wouldn't be a big surprise. Inconsistency was something that the worst managers also displayed. So the sort of different rules for different team members. Some employees were, liked, or they were friends with the managers, and they got all the, the good rewards, the good shifts, the good rosters, not having to work public holidays, whatever it was. Also, people were treated differently depending on their position in the organisation. So friendly to those in a similar or higher level position, but treated subordinates like dirt and spoke to them condescendingly. And then inconsistency in the circumstantial application of rules and guidelines. So some people would easily get a day off approved, or, in terms of the manager's opinion, they'd be quite variable depending on whether it was a good day or a bad day. There was no certainty for team members of the right approach they should take in their work or in their approach to the particular manager. In terms of the best managers, honesty, including following through on commitments. No surprise that following words with actions and honesty were highly related. They had the same percentage there in that table we looked at to start with. Also, doing the right thing rather than the easiest or most profitable was highly regarded amongst the best managers. So this meant that the best managers were considered reliable, that they were considered genuine, and they were considered sincere. And also the open-ended responses showed that fostered trust between the managers and their team members, which, as we saw from the Dirksen-Ferrin model, means that there's a lot of other positive outcomes for an organisation. In terms of another element of behaviour for the worst managers, communication was another one. So the worst managers who did communicate often allowed their emotions to affect how they acted in the workplace. So they'd be impatient or immature in their approach. And again, that sort of idea of, depending on what day it was, you wouldn't know which manager you were going to see, but also just allowing anger or annoyance to be very apparent to everyone. Some would even humiliate their team members by yelling or shouting at them in front of customers and co-workers, which people found very demotivating. And often the shouting or screaming was for no sort of reason that was apparent, or it was for something very simple that could have been easily resolved if they'd taken a different approach. Some communicated the rules and guidelines that were not in a way that was not easily understood and or seemed arbitrary. So that left the team confused about what was the best way or what was the way or what was the preferred way. They just sort of left in the dark. And these managers were often seen as unapproachable. Another group actually of the worst managers were kind of almost the opposite of that, where they avoided communication. So that idea of kind of like hiding in their office, they couldn't deal with the different personalities and approaches of the team. And all of these behaviours caused these managers to be considered unsupportive and disrespectful. In terms of the best managers when it came to communication, when something went wrong, these managers controlled their emotions and were able to maintain good relationships throughout their interactions. They would appreciate team members. Good performance would be recognised publicly through rewards such as praise, presents, lunches, or promotions. So it didn't necessarily have to be a big reward. It was just the recognition that people were appreciative of, which again is consistent with a lot of the literature about HR in terms of rewarding through motivational things and softer kind of approaches. They also tended to be open to suggestions, so they would actually value the contributions of team members and of all team members. So people felt that it didn't matter their area of expertise or in terms of how senior they were, their contributions were welcome. And good communication was reported as building excellent
of being excellent for motivation and team morale as well. These best managers were described as being approachable, being easy to talk to, and calm. So when it came to application, and here we're sort of talking about things like decision making, the worst managers rarely sought feedback or input into decision making. Even if there are detrimental effects on team members, like they wouldn't necessarily be told about it. They might find out by accident, they might find out way after it happened. They didn't communicate openly, so team members often felt that they were in the dark. I guess that's where you have that kind of common expression of being a mushroom, that sort of behaviour. Did not take time to explain why decisions were made, leading to unproductive speculation. So the other thing that's interesting is that because there was a dearth of information, people would fill that void with their own sort of speculation, their own ideas, their own opinions, which just took up a lot of time with people trying to sound out what was going on, and was very unproductive. Some were poor at deciding because of inexperience, so that they actually waited to such a point where the decision was actually made by inaction. A last group would allow discussions about a decision to become so charged with emotional reactions no decision could be agreed upon. So that's the other part of decision making, is that they would just let the team sort of argue it out. And instead of arguing about the idea, it become personal. And so that would just lead to destructive arguments, and basically no agreement would be reached for that reason. When it came to delegation, the worst managers had two opposite tendencies, a bit like the communication one, the hands-off approach and the micromanagement approach. In terms of the hands-off approach, they would delegate all the work and not assist in any way. So in essence, the work of the manager would become the work of the team, and they didn't spend any time guiding or assisting in the completion of the tasks. Those managers who micromanaged, on the other hand, would demand that they approve even the smallest decision, which meant the team members had no opportunity to exercise their own initiative. And also, a lot of people felt that sort of hindered their career development, their progression, their opportunity to grow in terms of their own sort of capacity to proceed or progress in their careers. Often this would lead to delays, so the team couldn't move ahead until they had a decision, which would mean that there were delays in things getting done. Team members described this as being suffocating and incredibly frustrating, so they were the most common responses there. In terms of the best managers on decision-making and delegation, the best managers were able to make decisions that considered the impact on the business while involving team members in the decision-making process. They were transparent, they were explaining exactly how and why decisions were being made within the organisation. They overcame difficulties by working to find the best solutions for changes, indeed even for customer complaints. And they trusted their team members, so they would set the expectations, provide the resources, and then allow the team members to decide on their own work processes. So kind of the opposite to the micromanagement approach. In terms of the methods, the worst managers use three principal methods for controlling their teams: divide and rule, intimidation, micromanagement, sometimes all three. So the divide and rule method created in-groups who received the good treatment from the manager, and the out-groups who'd received the worst rosters, the tedious or difficult work. And these managers often played politics within the team, even intentionally causing conflict through gossip, backstabbing, encouraging employees to spy on each other, which caused serious negative effects on interpersonal relationships and teamwork, as you might expect.
I hope you found that useful. In the next video, we're going to be looking at how a manager's mindset and motivation affect trust in the workplace.